Peter Parker is a happy-go-lucky kid in high school. He quips, he jokes, he gets bullied. He has girl problems. But at the end of the day, it's a comedy, a soap opera. That's all Spider-Man is. How many times have you heard that? How many times have you been told that Peter Parker is supposed to be a teenager with powers and that's as far as an adaptation should go with his character? Because that's not who Peter Parker is. He spent less than 100 issues in high school, and that was just in a single decade. For the last 50 years of Spidey comics, we've been treated to our favorite webhead growing up. Marrying Mary Jane Watson, nearly having a kid, being forced to deal with rent troubles and job troubles. We've seen him lose people he's loved, form a strong friendship with his old high school bully. We've seen him leave New York completely for new horizons. And that is where his best stories are told. Peter Parker works best as an adult. He always has. From gaining the symbiote, losing Gwen Stacy, fighting Thanos, joining Captain America in the superhero Civil War, fighting Morlun. Every single one of these iconic stories takes place when Peter is far from his high school days. And that's a good thing, because we love to see our hero grow up with us. To see them age and mature is a spectacular way to bond an audience with a main character. And it often leads to the arrival of new and interesting legacy heroes, to give new younger audiences someone to latch onto, the way we did with the original. Now, you're probably asking yourself what the point of this intro is. And I'll tell you. Peter B. Parker is the best on-screen adaptation of Spider-Man we've ever seen. It knocks every single live-action Spidey out of the water, and it's not even close. Tobey is too timid for Peter Parker. Andrew is a near-perfect adaptation, but he suffers from being tossed around by the whims of Sony throughout his films. And Tom is a billionaire simp and didn't get a grip on the Peter nor the Spidey persona until his 5th movie. And between all of them, only Tobey got to come even close to that older Peter feel. I mean, the man was supposed to be evicted in the 4th film. But enough about the live-action Peters. Today, we're diving into the best animated film of the decade, Into the Spider-Verse. Now, before I get into Peter B. and his brilliant adaptation of Spider-Man's later years before One More Day screwed him up, seemingly permanently, I gotta talk about Blonde Peter. Now, Into the Spider-Verse paints us a perfect picture of what most audiences who have never picked up a comic think Spider-Man is. He's this happy-go-lucky, quippy hero who always gets back up and always saves the day. He's got gadgets and suits galore, and most of all, he's an empty shell. Someone who, beyond his lesson from Uncle Ben, seemingly doesn't have a single bit of the hardship that the real Peter Parker he's adapting faced. To tell you the truth, Blonde Peter is a much better adaptation of this armored asshole.
Right into your armor? It's my own design. I only wish I was able to bring my giant spider robot on this mission with us. Did he say his giant spider robot?
Than anything else. An idealized, faceless mask who gets the crowd going wild. None of the baggage. None of the nuance. Which, to me, is a perfect critique of the MCU's adaptation of Peter. No Uncle Ben, no responsibility, no caring and wise Aunt May. And yeah, they course-corrected on all this for No Way Home. But at the time of Into the Spider-Verse's release, the juxtaposition of Peter B. and Blonde Peter are such a fantastic look into the minds of Marvel executives' take versus a real fan's take on the character. Take this shot in particular.
I was dead. And blonde. I was kind of perfect. It was like looking in a mirror.
This bruised, battered, older Peter staring into the face of a clean, handsome, and smiling version of himself, wondering if he ever did look like that when he was younger. If that smile really was his. In his intro alone, we see that Peter B. Parker is older, he's wiser, and he's been through more than any of the other Spider people we see in Into the Spider-Verse. He knows the tropes of being a hero by now. It's been 22 years on the job.
The moment that I'm losing the fight. All right, let me tell you the good news. We don't need the monitor.
And it really comes out in his humor. He's not a high-pitched, whiny nerd making pop culture references. His humor is dry and witty, He points out the cliches that tend to present themselves in a hero's line of work with such charm. He's been around, maybe for too long, and no one recognizes this. Gwen and Miles poke fun at him for it. But Aunt May sees it.
Yeah.
You look tired, Peter.
Well, I am tired.
And older.
That's her nephew, her son, looking so old and so tired. Because he is. He buried her. He buried his relationship with MJ. He buried his happiness. Spider-Man is a tale of tragedy. It always has been. When Spider-Man wins, Peter Parker loses. Whether it be saving some kids and being fired from his job in the process, stopping a villain but losing his first love, or finally earning a little bit of money he can use to help his poor aunt and uncle, just for it to end in death. And that's what blonde Peter lacks. The flaws and the tragedy. Because ultimately that's what Peter Parker is. He's flawed. He tries to make the right choices and he tries to save the day. But sometimes it isn't always possible. Sometimes his self-doubt brings him down. And sometimes he doesn't get back up. Not at first anyway. And not without help. But Peter's an underdog. He's the hero you can't help but root for no matter what. And when he does get back up, when he does save the day, and he gets the girl and he earns just a little happiness, it means so much more to us. Because haven't we all been there? Haven't we been tired too? And Jake Johnson's voice fits so perfectly for this version of the character. He really does nail the role of a bashed up Peter with a bit of a chip on his shoulder, who's seen too much and done too much to be the peppy youngster we've honestly seen too much of. That's what makes Peter B so much more of a character than what we've seen before. He has history and baggage, and even from what little we see of him in just a single movie, we can't help but root for him, getting MJ back once he's crossed over back into his own reality. We care about him. So when, throughout Into the Spider-Verse, he constantly volunteers himself to stay behind in another reality so everyone else can go home, we get it. It hurts, but we get it. He doesn't want to go home. He can't bear to face the music. This is his out. This is his chance to die a hero. What's better than sacrificing yourself so the next generation can take up the mantle? Your job's done. You don't have to worry about the self-doubt and the fear and the tragedy anymore. You've done what you can to pass on what you've learned. But it takes Miles, this younger hero who Peter sees himself in, giving him his confidence back, making him see that he's not hopeless. He doesn't know if he's going to screw it up again. But isn't that the beauty of life? In his own words, and echoed to him by Miles in the climax of the film, it's a leap of faith. Peter B. Parker encapsulates everything that I love about an older Spider-Man, and it makes it all the more sweeter to see him take on this reluctant mentor role for Miles, especially since, in the film, he mentions how scared he was to have kids, yet he becomes a father figure for Miles, teaching him what he can, where he can, even if he's a little sarcastic and lazy with it sometimes.
I'm listening.
The other Peter said he was going to be showing me the ropes.
Wow.
You got any Spider-Man tips you can tell me now?
Yeah, I got plenty. Disinfect the mask. You're gonna want to use baby powder in the soup, heavy on the joints. You don't want any chafing, right?
Anything else?
Nope, that was everything.
I think you're going to be a bad teacher.
Seriously, Marvel, let Peter be a dad already. Please. He's already got the dad jokes down. Just let him have this. I'm begging you. But I digress. It's amazing to see an on-screen adaptation of Peter's best era. From his pudgy dad bod to his broken nose from years of getting into scuffs with supervillains, to his cynical, witty take on the world around him. He's perfect. And I hope Into the Spider-Verse wasn't the last we get to see of him. With that being said, this is the Synth Voice Network, signing off for the night.